Welcome to Movie World Plus, the place where we talk movies. I'm Andy Signor, and I got to see Wolfman last night from Blumhouse and Leigh Whannell, who did the Invisible Man remake, which I genuinely liked, and I was excited for this. I like these sort of smaller budget, indie, gritty versions of the, Universal monsters. And so I thought, you know what? Finally, we're going to get a good Wolfman movie. It's been a long time, and I thought this could be a really cool, scary film. Plus, I like Julia Garner, who from Ozark. She was Ruth. She's great in Ozark. And so I went into this movie, very open-minded and excited to see what it was. I didn't watch a lot of the trailers. I just assumed, okay, I don't need to watch a lot. It's going to be a good Wolfman movie. And yeah, I really didn't like this movie. Now, look, I think some people are going to enjoy this movie. I've seen some reviews sort of filter in as I was doing my research and grabbing images for this review. And it seems people aren't hating on this movie, but I really didn't like this movie. This movie was not a really good Wolfman movie, in my opinion. It was depressing. It was not scary. It was the worst word I can use, kind of boring through a lot of points. There were a couple sequences that I liked. There's one sequence where you're sort of seeing the Wolfman become the Wolfman and sort of he's turning, and they do this sort of cool pan where they go from the humans and they're talking English, and then it goes to his sort of POV and it goes into more of a predator thermal vision, and they're all like, blah, blah, blah. There was some cool ideas here, but not nearly enough to make this movie worthwhile and not a chore to get through. I really was underwhelmed. Let me break it down. I'm going to not break down spoilers. There's not a lot to spoil. It's a Wolfman movie, but I am going to have to go through the plot because there's not much else to talk about here. So if you're sort of still wanting to go see it, well, then stop watching right now. Go watch it so you can be fully surprised. Otherwise, if you want to hear a little bit more about the plot, I'm not going to spoil it fully, but I am going to break down the plot of this film. Let's get into it. All right. So the film focuses on Julia Garner as Charlotte, her husband, Christopher Abbott, Blake, played by Christopher Abbott, and their daughter, Ginger, played by Matilda Firth. And the movie starts with a flashback of him as a younger child with his father, and his father's super protective, like military dad. And they have a hunting experience that clearly sort of implies there's a Wolfman out there. You don't really get to see it, but there's sort of a tense moment. And the kid's kind of terrified, but more terrified of his father. Fast forward, he's now older in the city. He and Julia Garner are, having some struggles. It's never really quite clear, but he's the stay-at-home dad now. She's still miserable at work, seems to be miserable in her marriage. It seems they don't really give us a lot of details as to why they're struggling so much. But he's a great dad. And he's a stay-at-home dad. The daughter loves him, and they're clearly like a cute, dad, daughter. And Julia Garner sort of talks about how she doesn't really feel like she's a good mother. It's kind of the more interesting part of this movie, but never really gets to go anywhere. Nothing in this movie really ever gets to go anywhere. They sort of set this tone for a family that's struggling. As he finds out his dad has now officially been declared dead, he gets the keys to his house, and they're going to go back to Oregon in the woods and check out his dad's belongings and check out the beautiful scenery, and maybe it'll be good for the family, right? No, it's not good for the family because clearly there's a Wolfman on the loose. And that's really where the sort of movie progresses as they show up pretty quickly. Wolfman gets there, and never in a exciting or like crazy way. Like I was just expecting some sort of really big scare moment or just like action moment. There's a set piece with the truck and some other stuff that happens, but all of it just felt a little underwhelming. And then finally, when we get to the Wolfman, and then we later learn pretty quickly that he somehow got clawed, or I don't think he got bit. I watched this movie. I'm still confused how he got the virus that she assumes he has, but he now is turning while they're sort of trying to protect themselves from the Wolfman outside it. We learn he's slowly turning into a Wolfman. And that's sort of the progression of the film of, oh no, what's wrong with Daddy? Daddy's clearly turning. And again, I like the words I said earlier. I was kind of bored. It was kind of depressing. And the biggest problem for me was like, here's like a thumbnail somebody generated to sort of buzz the movie because they don't really show you the Wolfman in the movie. but they kind of do. And that's it. You don't get much more, but we never get to see something cool like this. Even this is like the Hollywood Universal Studios ride, the new animatronic Wolfman for that movie. We don't even get anything like that. I mean, it's more like this, but even the OG Lon Chaney Wolfman's scarier than what we get, which is this weird zombied creature is really what this movie's filled with. It just, the whole thing to me was just a letdown. A lot of darkness, a lot of waiting around, but like the transformation scenes, never that cool. Just a little bit more grotesque. It felt more like a zombie movie than an actual Wolfman movie. And the rules of what the Wolfman has, unclear. Nothing in this movie I could really follow. It's just a slow build to kind of nothing. It is definitely a lot of tension, but unlike Invisible Man, which I thought did a really good job of like, oh man, they turn the Invisible Man into like, he's a stalker and she's like, has a restraining order trying to get away. And he's promised to not only not go away, but now he's like always going to be there harassing her and invisible. And it's kind of freaky. And there's sequences where they use the Invisible Manness part to cool. There was never anything in this movie that made me like, oh yeah, Wolfman, cool. Nothing. It's just a generic sort of virus family in the woods movie that for me never amounted to much anything. I'm very disappointed that the cast's okay. They don't really have much to do but run around. Christopher Abbott's trying his best. He's fun as the father, but then it's just a downhill road that you get ready for. And then you're like, well, what's going to happen? Julia Garner never really gets much to do. And I think she's a great actress. Exciting to see her as sort of a different type of role than these crazy people she gets to play. But man, what a letdown for her as well. Nothing really to do. The daughter is what the daughter is, cutesy daughter. And overall, just a big disappointment for me. I couldn't get involved. Didn't like it. I kept hoping for some big turn or something to happen. And it's just a slow, depressing slog of a movie for me. Nothing scary, nothing exciting, nothing thought-provoking. The family issues that were brought up in the beginning, I feel like never really get addressed or go anywhere. Just the whole question of what was the point of this movie and why was it called Wolfman? That's my biggest question. I mean, I know why. It's the face of a wolf. But this is one of those movies where they went so grounded, they lost focus of what the material actually was. And for me, this was a massive disappointment. So there it is. I didn't like this one. Not a fan, as moody as they tried. And a couple cool sequences, attempts. There was potential here, but ultimately, for me, didn't deliver. What do you think? Are you still excited? Did you see it already? Did you like it? Am I crazy? Tell me your thoughts down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for all alerts, and smash that thumbs up. Let me know what you think. Excited to hear what your thoughts are. We got a lot more coming for you here on the movie channel, Movie World Plus.